for the black community, okay? The Asian community is fighting.
I suspect that if we opened our mouths, we would side with black people and other brown people as the real American heroes. Yeah.
Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Strana. Thank you so much for all the love and support. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and also educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovely.
I came across these stitches on my For You and I thought to share where Asian Americans is actually calling out all of their BS against black Americans. And the thing is that some of them are coming out with receipts, calling out all of the BS happening in their community towards, people that look like me and all of that lovely. So I'm just going to roll the clip as well as some of other stitches I was able to put together. Please leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. Alright, lovelies, wanna just, chill. Let's hear what they have to say, about what has been going on in their community and as well as the black community.
Bending over backwards for white acceptance. What has it gotten you? You guys got rid of affirmative action and now we are not getting into top universities at the same rate that we used to, but when affirmative action was still a thing. Our elders were getting beat up in the streets during COVID. Did you having a white husband stop that from happening to your mom? Some of y'all made that shitty fusion cuisine and put strawberry in matcha, and now the white people really like it. And our food costs way too much. There's a matcha shortage. The colonizers are looking at ube now. They're trying to bulldoze Chinatowns across the nation. And your white husband is still gonna cheat on you when you have a baby and he finds a younger Asian woman. Your kid still doesn't have blue eyes. Your kid still has brown hair. What has it gotten you? What has this house servant mentality gotten you, gotten your family, gotten your community? I get that you feel better than other Asian women. I get that you feel like you're prettier, smarter, more accepted than Asian women like me who don't choose to do those things. But you're not even getting paid for waiting around in H Mart waiting to help a white person find Asian groceries. Please move out of the way. I'm trying to get my chicken feet here. Oh yeah. And what has voting for Trump personally done for you? To the Asians that are when you become pro-Asian enough, you start listening to black people and become pro-black as well. I'm not talking about individual Asian advancement where you play pick-me to white people, cater to them, make yourself smaller for them, maybe marry one of them, and then move up in society that way. No, that's not what I'm talking about. When you're interested in the liberation of the Asian American collective and in Asians around the world freeing themselves, and specifically to Asian Americans because we are a relatively new ethnic group in America, you realize that black Americans have been liberating themselves for as long as they have been here, for over 400 years. You look at the way that they ostracize the pick-me's in their community, the Candace Owens, you can see what happened with Onyeka, the Danish deception girl. Black people and specifically black women did not let them off the hook. Candace Owens can no longer go to black people for any kind of support or help because as a collective, they have disowned her. Why are Asians not doing more of that? Look at the way that black people have created their own spaces, created their own communities throughout American history. Even when white people have gone and tried to destroy them, they have managed to create their own culture, their own language. They're protective of those spaces. They embrace their ethnic features and hair texture instead of just doing whatever Karen is doing. And this, I'm talking generally. I'm not saying that every black American is like this. I'm saying that a lot of them are, and that the general sentiment that I get from that community is that they are proud to be who they are. So if you're Asian and you're thinking, I want to be able to wear my cheapao to school. I don't like it when people gentrify my food after making fun of it my entire childhood. I don't like being fetishized, and I will not marry someone who does that to me. When you start thinking this way, you just look right on over to black people, and they've already had those thoughts. They've already done the same thing. You just do it in your own Asian flavor. And this doesn't even get into the fact that our liberation is all tangled up in each other. Like all the minorities in the US and in the world, overthrowing white supremacy is like a collective effort. And black people have been telling us this since we got here. I'm just hoping that if I say it, then maybe you will listen. When you become pro-Asian enough, you start listening to black people and become pro-black as well. I'm not talking about individual Asian advancement where you play pick-me to white people, cater to them, make yourself smaller for them, maybe marry one of them, and then move up in society that way. No, that's not what I'm talking about. When you're interested in the liberation of the Asian American collective and in Asians around the world freeing themselves, and specifically to Asian Americans because we are a relatively new ethnic group in America, you realize that black Americans have been liberating themselves for as long as they have been here, for over 400 years. You look at the way that they ostracize the pick-me's in their community, the Candace Owens, you can see what happened with Onyeka, the Danish deception Asian girl, Black people and specifically Black women did not let them off the hook. Candace Owens can no longer go to Black people for any kind of support or help because as a collective, they have disowned her. Why are Asians not doing more of that? Look at the way that Black people have created their own spaces, created their own communities throughout American history, even when white people have gone and tried to destroy them.
Comments like this with, Asians and Black people fighting in my comment section. And honestly, it shows how little we actually talk about the history behind all of this. The tension didn't just magically appear. It was shaped by decades of laws, segregation, stereotypes, and political narratives that pushed our communities apart. When Asian immigrants first came to the US, they weren't allowed to live just anywhere. Segregation forced them into Black and brown neighborhoods because those are the only areas open to anyone who wasn't white. So Asians and Black Americans were physically close, but not always connected. Different languages, different histories, limited communication, misunderstandings grew out of that. Then in the 1960s, during the Civil Rights Movement, the US created the model minority myth. The idea that Asian Americans were successful, quiet, and proof that racism doesn't exist. That stereotype was never meant to lift Asians up. It was meant to contrast Asians against Black Americans and basically say, see, they're doing fine, why can't you? It was a political tool that built resentment and pressure on both sides, even though neither community created that narrative. At the same time, anti-Blackness already existed in some Asian cultures because of colonialism, colorism, and Western media influence. And for some Black Americans, their only interactions with Asians were through local businesses, corner stores, nail salons, restaurants, situations that were transactional, not relational. That created frustration and stereotypes on both sides. But here's the thing, in both communities, it's only a small handful of people who are actually hateful or racist. A few loud, ignorant individuals do not represent millions of us. We can't let the worst examples define entire communities. Then COVID hit and all of this got amplified again. Anti-Asian hate skyrocketed. Elderly Asians were attacked, harassed, and blamed for the virus, all because of fear and political scapegoating. Some of the viral videos showed attackers who were Black, and suddenly that tiny number of incidents turned into a whole narrative online like Black people hate Asians, which was inaccurate and unfair. What people forget is that Black activists and Black organizations publicly stood with Asian communities during that time. People protested for us. They protected Asian elders. They spoke out against the hate. But the media rarely highlighted the solidarity, only the violence. And yes, some Asians responded by generalizing those incidents and blaming the entire Black community, which made things even worse, even though the majority of Black people had nothing to do with those attacks. COVID didn't create new racism. It exposed what was already unaddressed and made stereotypes louder because everyone was scared and hurting. But amid all of that, we forget that historically there has also been real solidarity. Asian American activists learned organizing strategies from Black civil rights leaders. Filipino and Black farm workers united under Larry Itliong and Cesar Chavez. Japanese American activists stood with the Black Panthers. Yuri Kochiyama worked alongside Malcolm X. In Oakland, Black and Asian communities built programs together to fight poverty and injustice. These are real alliances. They just don't get talked about as much as the conflicts. That's why we need to zoom out. A handful of ignorant people shouldn't define entire communities. A bad experience shouldn't turn into a stereotype. We shouldn't let old narratives and old wounds be recycled and divide us again. Asians and Black people have both faced discrimination, exclusion, violence, and being treated like outsiders. We have more in common than we think, and when we work together, there's real power, real healing, and real progress. We just have to stop letting fear, stereotypes, and misinformation talk louder than the history and solidarity we actually come from. I've seen a few comments like this with,
I'm mad at Asian Americans because why are we so smart but so silent? What's with the silence? I suspect that if we opened our mouths, we would side with Black people and other brown people as the real American heroes. Yeah, we're brown, not white. But this would disrupt the white supremacy brainwash we're caught in. And deep down, we hate ourselves for siding with whiteness. We know they're wrong. Our silence is the sound of us hating ourselves. But that's the Squid Game trap that they set for us, an Asian American matrix that messes with our reality. And it's all based on hating Black people. You know, the ones we're all secretly trying to copy, even the white people's. White supremacy isn't smart, but it's tricky like that. You like being tricked? I don't know any Asians who put up with that. We gotta decolonize ourselves and find Asian joy. Therein lies our voice.
I rant a little about Asians who want to be white so bad. I was having a conversation with someone the other day and she went to a gathering, right? These people are Asian, right? But there are two white guys. Someone brought the Malona ice cream. The girl, who's Asian, goes, ew, is it an Asian ice cream? And then she'd make comments like, I wouldn't know because I don't have an Asian friend. She made another comment that said something like, this feels like a whole bunch of Asians playing with two super smart white guys playing a word game, some shit like that. It's so cringe just seeing Asian people try to cater to white people. Asian people act like proximity to whiteness makes them superior. You can literally feel the energy shift when someone has internalized racism. It's this weird mix of embarrassment, superiority, and I'm not like those other Asians vibes. And honestly, it's painful to watch. I've seen it so many times. Some Asians act like the second they get a white friend group, they level up in the social hierarchy. Suddenly, everything Asian is cringe or weird or low tier. And you know what's the funniest part? They'll distance themselves from anything remotely Asian like it's toxic, and then they will over cater to their white partners or friends. Do you hear yourselves? It's like watching someone actively shrink themselves to fit into a box that was never built for them in the first place. Look, I get it, alright? A lot of Asians grow up being praised for assimilation. A lot of us are raised to believe whiteness equals safety, opportunity, acceptance. That's literally how internalized racism works. Acting like being white adjacent makes you superior to your own culture. Acting disgusted at your own food, your own features, your own background. It's not about hating anyone. It's more about calling out a pattern that harms all of us. Because when you look down at your own identity, the world learns to do the same. So yeah, Asians who think being white makes them better, just know that the rest of us see right through that.
I'm gonna say something that y'all aren't gonna like, but there is an expectation that Asian people will pander to white people. It's rooted in xenophobia and the model minority myth. And I'll even take it a step further. The Asian people who are making videos like, oh my gosh, this discourse is so stupid, like, do we not have anything better to talk about, blah, blah, blah. Y'all are also pandering to white people and you don't even realize it. Because let's be so honest here, if the original creator was not a Asian woman talking about an Asian grocery store, but a black person talking about a black beauty supply store or a black owned business, it would have not gotten the same amount of outrage it did. Now, before I get the comments, oh, why do you have to bring black people into this, whatever, I want to have like an actual nuanced discussion on critical race theory, like when it comes to this topic. And it's also because a lot of the white people that were so outraged by this discourse wouldn't have said shit if this was about a black creator, and I'm going to tell you why. If we look back at history, a lot of black American culture was born essentially because white people stripped black people of their ethnic culture, heritage, and roots. As a lot of us know, a lot of black Americans don't even know where their African ancestors are exactly from because their history was erased and destroyed through slavery. And a lot of black American culture was created in spite of white people and their perpetuation of racism. So a lot of black Americans created products that were made for them based on their features, and they also cultivated their own culture within the context of the United States and kept it alive despite systemic racism that they constantly faced. So if black people see a white person come into their space that was created in spite of them, obviously there are going to be side eyes, but the reason why there are side eyes is much more obvious. So if a black creator created a similar video to what Madeline did, the white person saying, oh my gosh, this is racist, this is prejudice, would look much more blatantly racist. And the discrepancy lies in that Asian people came to this country voluntarily. So white people subconsciously hold this like entitled energy against Asian people. It's sort of this sentiment of like, wow, we let you come into our country and now you're gonna gatekeep things from us? Classic model minority myth. I'm gonna give a second to the white people who come across this video and was just rage baited by what I said. They're probably thinking like, oh my god, I wasn't thinking that, you can't speak for white people, bah. But let's be honest, if this discourse was an Asian grocery store, but it was black beauty supply store, would you have felt the same? Think about it. If you think they're the same, you're just racist, like good old American classic. But if you would have reacted differently, you're subconsciously xenophobic. And just to talk more about the other differences, like Asian culture was not created in spite of white people, it was created literally somewhere else. So there's not as strong emotions to try and protect and gatekeep it. Asians and Asian Americans alike, like we love sharing our culture for the most part. That also explains why some Asian Americans felt the need to pander to their white audiences, because there's a subconscious thought that gatekeeping our culture will hurt us in some socioeconomic sense. But when you look at the widespread of Asian culture in the United States, a lot of us have also seen our culture become gentrified, fetishized, appropriated with no respect to the actual culture. Like, let's be so honest here. Like, it wasn't until a couple years ago until white people stopped labeling our food as like disgusting or smelly or exotic. So when it comes to the context of the United States, a lot of Asian Americans have this like conflicted emotion of wanting to share our culture but not wanting it to be disrespected. And you literally see this conflict of emotions happen within Madeline's original video. She literally says in the video, like, I'ma still side-eye because I'm a bitch, but please come and still support these businesses. Now, to the white people who thought they did their big one by commenting shit like, oh, I better not see Asians at Trader Joe's after this, or some shit like that. You know, like Trader Joe's, Walmart, like all these like grocery stores, they're not white grocery stores. They're not white establishments. They're American establishments. But the fact that you're conflating white to America, that's racist too. White was never a culture, it will never be a culture, and the fact that so many of you tie your whiteness to your culture is concerning, and that's something you need to think about. Also, to the Asian people who felt the need to make a video about how stupid this discourse is and like we should be having so many better conversations, do that. Start the conversation. Why are you engaging in a discourse that you think is stupid? Like, yeah, I thought this conversation was pretty ridiculous at first too. And then I saw so many other creators making such insightful and nuanced discussions about it, and I continued to listen to them. But if you thought the conversations weren't worth your time and you thought they were stupid and you don't know why people are making videos about it, why did you make a video about it? The thing that y'all don't understand is like going publicly to say that you're shutting down a discourse or dismissing a discourse is engaging in the discourse. For those 5 to 10 minutes you spent on making a video about how stupid you think the H-Mart discourse is, you could have been talking about something that you thought was important and relevant. But you didn't. So what does that say about you? I'm gonna say something that y'all aren't gonna like.
There's a long and extensive history of European colonization in Asia. The British colonized India and made repeated attempts to colonize China during the 1800s. That's why the British occupied Hong Kong until the 1990s. Southeast Asia, from India to China, was known as French Indochina because of French colonization. The Dutch colonized Taiwan, the Portuguese occupied Macau, and the French occupied Shanghai. When the transatlantic slave trade was banned, there were British and American merchants who tried to recreate it on the Pacific Ocean with enslaved Chinese men in a practice known as selling little pigs, and that's where the term to be shanghaied comes from. And of course, there was all of the U.S. military action in Korea and Southeast Asia during the 1900s. So there has been a lot of Western influence and interference in Asia. A specific problem faced by Asian Americans is the problem of the perpetual foreigner. It doesn't matter how long we've been here. It doesn't matter how many generations our families have been in the United States. It doesn't matter how loyal we've been to the United States. Just because of how we look, we are judged as not being from here, not belonging here, and being inherently suspicious. And that creates a powerful pressure to assimilate, especially when our safety can rely on how well we have assimilated. During the McCarthy era, which is when my mom came to the United States, there were Chinese Americans who had just seen Japanese Americans put in internment camps during World War II, who whitewashed themselves and became white-aligned, patriotic, flag-waving Americans just to stay safe. There are a lot of us whose parents whitewashed us in order to keep us safe. When my older brother started school, my parents enrolled him with his Chinese name because they wanted to be proud of that, and he was bullied and he was beaten up for it. Even years after they switched to his Western name, students who remembered his Chinese name continued to bully and beat him up for it. So 7 years later, when I started school, my parents enrolled me in school using my Western name, which means that I wasn't bullied and beaten up for having a Chinese name, but it also means that part of my identity has been whitewashed. And that's not the same thing as being obsessed with white culture or seeking validation from white people. It is done to keep us safe from anybody who would weaponize our Asianness against us.
Like, seriously, lovely, I like the fact that at least once in a while, if it's going to take, their own people, if it's going to take the Asian community to call out BS that is happening in the Asian community, I think we all need to really maybe start from there. Like, Asian people also need to start from there, Enough of looking for who to blame, blaming black community, blaming white community, accountability needs to start from your own family, your own community, your own space. Then after which it can now proceed to other community. During the case of this immigration and ICE raids and Hispanic people calling out black people for help, or calling out black people to come help them. And when they see that black people are just minding their own business and focusing more on their own, pressing issue, most of them decided to call out black people, talking about how black people don't want to help them, even though they have been helping black people and all of that. So when that really happened, I actually staged videos, and I was like, even though you want to call out black people, like black people is not obligated to help. You have to start from calling out your own community. Like, you really have to start calling out your own community, because your own community are the vast majority of people that actually voted massively for whatsoever that is going on right about now. Like, your own community is the major community that actually voted. So if you don't actually set your own, or your own goals, if you don't call out the whatsoever that is happening in your own community, you don't have any right to actually call out whatsoever that is happening in other people's community. So the thing is that for you to actually have for you to have progress with whatsoever that is happening, you have to first of all call out people who voted massively for ICE raids. Because during the past elections, the same people who have been tormented by ICE are the vast majority of people that voted for whatsoever that is happening right about now. So enough of calling people out to come help you, or trying to say that this is the reason why this is happening. Meanwhile, deep inside of you that your own community actually contributed massively with whatsoever that is going on. And another thing is the fact that Asian community right about now is beginning to do that. They're beginning to call out their BS. They're beginning to call out their insolidarity. And I like the fact that affirmative action was mentioned on the course of these stages, because I could remember vividly when during that affirmative action case how Asian people contributed massively to the removal of affirmative action. I could vividly remember how they contributed massively to the removal of affirmative action. And when that is done, hoping that at the end of the day they will be admitted in these Ivy schools, like measures like they will be admitted in this Ivy school after affirmative action was removed. Their admission declined, like it's actually depreciated instead of it to increase. So what's the fuse all about? So why all of the propaganda? Because I actually thought that affirmative action was benefiting black people, right? Without even knowing that affirmative action benefited white people the most. So the thing is that if you want to solve issues or cases, you have to first of all take your own accountability. Like, make sure that you see where your fault is at, you see where you're having lapses, and try to fix that. So when you fix that, starting from yourself to your community, from your community, then you can come out to other communities to ask them for help, or to ask them to come help you. Asian TikTok right about now, they're all going bust. And this was actually started when an Asian lady who probably is a biracial, right? She's half Asian, half white. And she was like, she gives side eyes. Anytime she sees a white person in an Asian store, she gives side eyes, like, what are you doing there? Like, what are you doing here? And majority of black people actually responded, and they understood where she is coming from. And because of that, it has opened a lot of conversation in the space of, in Asian community. And most of them now are talking about the anti-blackness and how they had to stand in solidarity with black people. Anyway, lovelies, why not just leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So please share this video Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that. Like, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.
Anyway, lovelies, so now just leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. Please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We're just here for educational and informative purposes. So please share this video, subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and also support my other channel, Verse. And I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.